Well, $200 certainly beats. I think I paid like 700 for the RetroTINK.
Oh no. The RetroTINK, you pay you that's right on the nose. This is it's by the company ModRetro, and it's an N64 FPGA console.
I don't mean to laugh, but I tried typing in RetroTINK and I typed in RetroKink.
Great. So now you're gonna have like
That
granny
was on
stuff.
purpose. Don't lie.
Yeah. Hey, there's no kink shame in here.
No, I'm looking this up because this is one I haven't heard of. So,
RetroTINK is it's an upscaler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically it has the SVGA, the RCA, old RCA inputs. You can take pretty much everything and then scale it to HDMI, 1080p, et cetera, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. The Super Nintendo interface is a little bit pixely, but I think it actually makes it look like a CRT representation. I think that might be intentional for the pre-programmed SNES settings in there.
I mean, hell, you're at a point now where people are paying a premium for CRTs, so it's which way do you go with it?
Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. So I went to a dive bar in Utah, and they had a spot where they have like old retro pinball games and all sorts of stuff. Like they have a whole section where it's all like, retro stuff. There's a random couch in the back, and you could just sit there, and they have a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo, and they have an old Samsung CRT, like 27-inch, one that I had in like, I don't know, 1999. And like with the plugs like right on the front, the RCA jacks right on the front, and you just play Super Mario World, whatever you wanted to play. And I was like, oh my God, that's a real CRT. I took a picture of it. I'll have to share it with you guys.
Yeah, that reminded me. Years ago, I went to a bar in Springfield, Missouri, and it was cool, like just cool joint. It was like one of the first times I'd ever been to a bar where it was basically they had like 50 taps on a wall, and you had a card, and you could basically load it up and then get your different beers and whatever. But if you swung around the corner of the bar, they had an N64 sitting there, and it was just like ready to go. And they treated it like it was a pool table. Like, oh, you just want to play Mario Kart against a random guy? Like, let's just have fun. It was cool, like a really cool setup. I really enjoyed that. So no, I love hearing stuff like that. It's like, embrace it. I mean, people going out like that are our age, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. There was a lot of like actually younger people going to and playing the retro stuff too. Like I was surprised. It wasn't like, just the old heads playing pinball machines. There was like young people. It was a college town too, so there was like a lot of college people. But they were going after the retro stuff more than the fancy pants, newer Dave and Buster style games. They were going for the older stuff.
That's cool. Always good to hear.
Man.
Now we got Bob and I got Brooks with us. We're just we got a couple of ideas in the can, but it's a busy time of year for everybody. We're just trying to start the school year and all that fun stuff. And Bob sounds like he's very white today, coming over a cold, and so is what it is. But we'll talk some gaming, retro gaming, console stuff, and kind of see what happens. So that's kind of why we kind of started why we did. I had talked about this on here many a times. Pre-ordered the analog, and that was a recent announcement where it was delayed yet again. So really starting to think that they're becoming like limited run games are Bob and I and Rich's favorite people to kind of beat up on as far as timing with things, but is what it is.
I mean, you could always cancel it and order the ModRetro N64.
Yeah, which you just sent us a link of that, and
I thought it was out already, or at least it was selling already, but it's not. You can only sign up for their wait list.
I was gonna say, I just got like some crazy techno music when I was when I click that link.
Yeah, sorry, I should have warned you about that. But it's going to be a machined aluminum chassis, for lack of better word. They're actually right now the big product that they're pushing is their Chromatic, which is a Game Boy, like a remake of a Game Boy Color, and they sell them at GameStop for $200, and it comes with a special color version of Tetris. Tom, I know that's right up your alley.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, now you don't have to sell me on Tetris. That's a it's a love of mine, but no, it just sucks. It's like I hate having money sunk into something that I expected, 6 months ago, like, and now it's like delayed again. And but like I said, it is what it is. I get it. Whatever. They're just trying to finalize the product to make sure it's good. And this is a conversation Bob and I you have had many a times over. Why release your product if it ends up needing a bunch of updates? And to me, at the hardware level, like, it needs to be right before it goes out, because
out the gate. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so I get it. Like, whatever they're working on, whatever the holdup is, I'm not gonna. I'll snicker and whatever, and kind of be a little miffed that I don't have it. But at the end of the day, I also understand that side of it. But Brooks, Bob, and I've talked about this many times over. It's like, these gaming, companies that are releasing these games, like, we just talked about it recently, Madden, the new Madden for the Switch, and about how much of an unfinished product it was, or it is.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to the consumer. So,
And it's not just those games either. Like, I was in the 7 Days to Die alpha, right? And I feel like even PC games, they just rush them to alpha to get it out there, and then rather than doing true beta testing, they just use the consumers as the beta testers, right? And then they go back to the drawing board and fix all their bugs, because it's cheaper than having a beta testing team, is because you'll get a lot of corner cases from the consumer base instead.
Yeah, now and now you have, like, I don't know, you have a whole community now that will give you every bug under the sun. I mean, it's kind of like why Reddit exists, right? I mean, they'll beat it down in submission, basically. But I don't know, it's still a pain point.
It's not just gaming companies, man. Like, I was reading the other day about the Tesla Roadster, the new Tesla Roadster. I don't know if you guys know about this, but they had the initial Tesla Roadster in early 2000, I think 2008-ish. And, people bought it, and then they're like, hey, we're going to redo this. It's going to look badass. It's going to look cool. And they opened up where you could get I think the collector's edition was $250K, or you could put a deposit for $50K on just a regular run-of-the-mill Tesla Roadster. That was like 8 years ago, and they still haven't released the car.
I'm not going to complain about my analog anymore.
Yeah, suddenly the 2 years waiting for Worms Armageddon doesn't sound so bad.
This is a pattern, though, here. Like, Worms, because, Bob, what system was that for?
N64.
Yeah, see, and I've always, and I might be misspeaking here, but I've always thought the N64 was the hardest system to recreate, emulate, do anything with. And I always felt that was the reason why you had such a hold up on everything for that system. I may be wrong, but that was just always my thought.
No, that holds true. The part of the reason why it took so long for the emulation of it is it's extremely weird extremely weird architecture that they used to build it. And so it's very hard to emulate. It's very hard to recreate. So
yeah, no. But now, one of the things that we've talked about recently on or off pod, and and for various reasons. And it's just, it's kind of weird because you have current generation consoles now are, you're right now, obviously Nintendo's at Switch 2, which just came out this year. But for Sony and Microsoft, you're looking at, 5 years now, roughly? For life?
Yeah, it's been about 5 years. It'll be 5 years, I think, in November. Or was it 2019? Was it 2019 that it came out? And then it was.
I don't know, man. I time traveled from like 2020 to 2025. I don't know about you guys. But
I think we all tried.
That's what it feels like some days, man.
I think it was 20. Well, we have Google.
I know, but it's so much fun just to guess.
We need a Jamie like on Joe Rogan's podcast where he's like, "Hey, Jamie, just look that up for me and get back to me."
Yeah,
okay. It was November. The Series X at least released November 10th of 2020.
That was 2020. Okay. I thought it was because I thought it was
coming up on 5 years. Yeah,
that was right around the time about started recording this whole podcast here.
Yeah, it's true.
But no, so maybe that means we need to start charging people. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we need to start. We need to raise prices.
But no, so yeah, Bob, go for it, because that's what you and I have talked about it on off pod. Now we're getting into more price increases of the same product, and it's like,
so
come on.
Not only are they admitting that basically they're at the end of the life cycle of the systems, with at least Microsoft is. Microsoft said they're wrapping up the Series era, if you will, and they're going to be bringing out their next version of whatever Xbox is going to be, which I honestly don't know. It could be, at this point, it could be streaming sticks for the TV, and everything's cloud computing at that point, because they just want to go digital. They want out of the hardware business. That's why they're relying on, I think, who is it? Asus that makes the ROG systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, they've got their ROG Ally and ROG Ally X that are coming out that are going to be
Republic of Gamers hardware. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. It's going to be, which, it's bad enough that a Series X that got released in 2000 went from $500 to $600, and the gimped version went from what, 300 to 400 or something like that. Now they're releasing handhelds and stuff, and the one is going to be $750 and the other one's going to be like over $1,000. Right? So you've got that, and then Sony, bless their hearts for holding out as long as they did, finally committed to a price change in the States, and they raised their prices. The Pro is now going for $750. The original, or not the original, but the Slim with the disk drive goes for $550, and the diskless version goes for $500. I had to be very careful.
I was gonna say, I love that. Love how you were like really slow with that one.
Hashtag richless.
Yeah. Hashtag diskless. We got
hashtag diskless.
We got a good one for this. Good title for this one at least.
Yeah, right. So they finally raised their prices, and the funny thing to me is, we're getting towards the end of the PlayStation 5, I guess, if Sony decides to go that route, which I think they will, based on Microsoft doing it. They kind of go in tandem as far as that's concerned. But the funny thing is, they literally just stopped support of the PS4. They stopped making their games where, if you can buy it on PS5, you can buy it on PS4. And so you literally just stopped the last generation, and now you're already ready to quit on your current generation. So it's just while you're raising the prices,
right? And it's just that's the crazy thing, and the price increase alone, and we've talked about this off pod a little bit. It's like, everything's gone up. I get it, makes sense, whatever. I mean, it's a nature of the beast type thing. But some of that blame's getting, and I don't want to get political here, but some of that blame gets misplaced, and it's like, well, you have enough stock already. This stock has been here. This system has been here for quite some time already. You can't just sit there and say, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's been out for 3 or 4 years. We were doing it at 450. Well, and now it's 500. That's not right at all. I mean, come on. You're now at that point, and I know we've talked about it. That's just a company looking at profit margins.
Cash
And
flow.
I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I disagree with that mentality. I mean, that's just what companies do. But come on, like, it would make sense if you already knew that something new was coming out, and now, we're just dealing with price increases on stuff that's been out already.
But that's the thing.
I have a opposing viewpoint, I think, to both of you. Sorry to say. So not just the price of goods have gone up, but significantly the price of labor and operating and maintenance and all of the overhead that you have associated with running a company and actually staying in business. Manufacturing processes, electricity is more expensive, water's more expensive, everything's more expensive now. So it's, yes, they might have built these things and put them on the shelf, right? But now they've got to get logistics out. They've got to ship it to stores. They've got to ship it to people. They've got to pay people to do these things. And that's the biggest driver. So I would reserve judgment until I actually look at what their like PE ratio is for market-minded people, and then see if there is a price increase, right? And then you see that their dividend goes up or something like that. And that dividend increase is not commensurate with inflation, then yeah, maybe they're trying to squeeze some more money out of it. But I think that a lot of companies, the other thing they do is the smart ones, they reinvest even their profits into R&D for the future stuff too, right? So they may be taking some of those margins that they're getting and putting it into the next generation of R&D for the next generation console.
You just hit on something that made me think about it too, Brooks. The squeezing it out, right? And that might exactly be it. That might be why there's not been necessarily a full-blown announcement for the next generation system, but squeezing out too. Hopefully, maybe that look, as consumers and as gamers and as fans, maybe that's what we're all hoping, right? Like that they would take that and reinvest it. My big issue has always been, I just wonder who needs that extra Mercedes. You know what I mean? Like, it just, every once in a while, it just seems like, I realize that things go up and you have to pay the workers and stuff, but sometimes it just seems like the wrong person gets paid.
That's not incorrect either.
On top of that, you have companies like Nintendo who, when they get questioned about why is the Nintendo Switch 2 $500? Why is it $450 without Mario Kart? Why is Mario Kart launching at $80? Why are you increasing your prices to this point? And what about your consumer? And then Nintendo responds, well, that's what the original Switch is for, the Switch Lite and the Switch OLED. Those are a lower cost option, only to turn around and 2 months later raise every single price on every single piece of hardware that they sell. And not only the hardware, but every accessory, the little freaking straps for the Switch 2 controllers, the Joy-Cons. Granted, it only went up like $1 or something like that, but they literally, every single thing in the market went up by some margin. And it's like, that hit the market.
And that may be, a driving factor for what we were complaining about earlier with them trying to divest from hardware and move into software for everything, right? Because
no, that was Nintendo, or that was Microsoft that was trying to do that.
Oh, I know, but it doesn't matter. The market's the market. They're all competing for the same chips, the same vendors, the same manufacturing capabilities. They are all using the same one. So if it's affecting their cost margin that they don't think they can deliver a suitable product to the consumer at a good price point, then they're going to try to eliminate things and go software model where they don't have that overhead. They don't have to worry about manufacturing delays at XYZ vendor, and they don't have to worry about chips from TSMC getting embargoed, right? There's a whole host of things that come into play here.
Which is hysterical. You're saying that because I mean, hell, God, Bob, was that years ago? We talked about that with a couple of years, maybe I don't know. Seems like a couple of years ago at least. Microsoft and not pursuing new hardware in the Xbox line like this. We talked about this before, and this was rumored that this would be it for them, and they would strictly be software. They would basically do the for lack of a better word and analogy, the Sega route, right, where the hardware line stopped and they became a software company. But I think that they're certainly doing something. Sony's doing something. There's always stuff that we don't know. You gotta keep your fans kind of teased a little bit, right? I mean,
well, and they are to a degree, even though they're, like I said, they're slapping their label on the Asus handhelds, and they're talking about doing this and that for the next generation of Xbox. But they're not necessarily calling it the next generation of Xbox. They're saying the Xbox's successor. So if you look at the wording, it's not necessarily saying, oh, we're going to come out with more hardware. They're saying exactly that everything can be an Xbox at this point due to
that's right, and that's something that we've talked about, and God, we grew up with it. How many different machines have we ever owned in our lives that have run a Microsoft OS? I mean, come on, that were made by other vendors. So I mean, it makes perfect sense. I
had an HTC Windows phone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was too.
I had a Samsung Blackjack too. So,
oh
yeah, it ran Windows Phone 6, I think, was the OS. Yeah. That was one of the first smartphones ever. It might be the first smartphone. No,
maybe that's the one I had.
I think that might have been the first smartphone I had. It was like the Windows version of a BlackBerry.
Okay, yeah, mine was very BlackBerry-like. It had the full QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah,
and it had the the little ridiculously small screen for what it was, but it was Windows. It was Windows, baby, and it was in my pocket.
Yeah, dude, that's what I had that too. And then it was the phone I went after that was an Omnia, and that was the first Android phone. It was like Android 1 or whatever.
Oh, I remember that. I really wanted that one. You had the Droid. What was the one. Yeah, I ended up getting one of the first Android phones on Verizon, which was the Aris.
Oh yeah.
Which it had the little pearl ball thing.
And Brooks, there's always a funny conversation. I remember you and I think it was me, you, and Danielle. We were at the Colonial Woodbury, and I had one of those Note phones. It was like the first Galaxy Note phone that was released. Mm-hmm. Brooks makes the comment to me. He's like, "That's like holding like an iPad up to your ear," because it was so big comparative to all the other phones. And the funny thing was, like, every phone went that route. Like,
well, you've seen the evolution of cell phones memes, right? Like, they started out huge, like the big Zach Morris brick, and then they got smaller, and then it says, then humanity found out we can put pornography on our phones, and then the screen got bigger and bigger and bigger after.
I mean, hey man, we've always said it. What 90 or 95% of the internet is what they always said.
Something like that. I had to look up because I didn't remember what my first. I don't even know if it would be considered a smartphone, but it was like an LG phone that had a full like tactile keyboard that you had to flip it open to use, and it looks like similar to what they call the Expression, but I think it was like one of the early ENVs, like the phones.
The only thing
I don't know what operating system was on that thing.
I've always said, to me, a smartphone was something, the only to me, and I might be misspeaking, but this was just my definition of it, was something that had some kind of mobile browser on it. Because once you could connect and look stuff
Right.
up,
Right.
that was your definition of smart.
Yeah.
You know, you're no longer closed in. But to that point, like my PSP had a browser on it, you know, so I mean, it did. Wasn't great, but
Hey, it worked. Brooks, I had the NV2.
Is that what you had?
That was one of
it's
the
like
ones I had.
ENV, and it was just envy.
Yeah, I
And
had the second one, I think, that came out of it. But I remember I used to love that, and the rate when I had the Razor, being able to change all the. I used to go in and use the hex editor and change all the values and make the speaker louder than it should have been, and then blow out the speaker and then send it back to T-Mobile and say, "Yo, your phone sucks. I don't know what happened to it." And then they'd send me a new one.
So you're the reason why my T-Mobile bill was always so high, because you were cashing in the insurance all the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, and that's the crazy thing too. You know, the first, I think a lot of us, my first phone was that Nokia, whatever 31 or whatever the hell number it was,
Yeah.
20, whatever, I don't remember the number, but I always thought it was the coolest thing. It was like, oh, I can go and get the backlight changed, the color, and now I can get like different cases.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And you could swap out the keypad too with different like lights.
Yeah,
I remember that.
and I remember one of the things I did with mine, because I hated the fat battery. It's like, let me get a thinner battery. Well, guess what? The phone battery doesn't last as long.
Yeah, you had to charge it every 2 weeks rather than once a month.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things I was looking at a couple weeks ago, because I was curious on something. I was looking for you know, battery packs and stuff, and I remember it wasn't that long ago where they had like the battery cases for phones, you know, and that seems to just be, that seems to have gone away. I mean, that was a pretty quick thing that just came and went, but to me, it still seems like a pretty decent idea. I mean, people always have to have a case on your phone. You might as well build in some battery tech to it.
Yeah,
You know
it's a
what
great
made an
idea.
interesting comeback that I saw was, especially ladies would put like, you know, like blinking lights and stuff like that on their iPhone would blink or light up, or they'd have something fancy on there. Like they were doing that 25 years ago. You could buy like little attachments, and your phone would light up. The antenna would light up like when someone was calling you.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's right, they did.
There was all sorts of funny customizable stuff that people did to their phones back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, those Mophie packs are great until you drop it on the ground and then it takes off like a 2-liter bottle of soda.
Oh man, but now it's
Drop it, man.
But it's funny though how and you know, it's funny like how that goes though. It's like, you know, like Brooks, you said, the Zach Morris phone, and it's like this giant thing that doesn't do anything other than call people, and then it, you know, time goes on, and what about 10 years after Saved by the Bell, or not even 10 years, but you know, it was more common for people to have the bag phones in the car, you know, because it was like an emergency thing, and then beepers. You know, that was my first device, was a beeper. You know, it was $2 a month.
Yep.
And now it's like I'm paying God knows what for multiple phones, and you know, I don't know how many data plans, and it's just crazy. But now some of those earlier phones were cool. I kind of miss the customizable part, because now it's like, yeah, the only thing I can do is a few ringtones and a wallpaper. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the
Makes-
customization that you can do. I mean, it's not a lot.
Or you can swap out like you can have a fancy case if you want, and that's all you get.
Slap a case on it. If my phone makes a fucking noise, I'm smashing it.
I did have one other thought though before, because I figured we'll wrap up here. But in terms of going back to the consoles real quick and thinking ahead, next generation stuff, and this doesn't have to get into like development of gaming or anything, but just the consoles themselves. And this seems to be the way with cell phones, and this is why I want to talk about it. because now, you know, you go buy like or look at the ads for a Samsung Galaxy, and they're selling their AI stuff with it, or that's what they're advertising. And the same thing goes with Apple. You know, Apple Intelligence. Our latest iPhone comes with Apple Intelligence, and obviously Google is big with their Gemini stuff, and all these, you know, companies have it. I just wonder if the next iteration of like the PlayStation 6 or whatever, you know, the PlayStation 6 AI or the whatever, you know, what do you guys think that leads? I know it's a weird question, but like at the console level, you know,
I think it's going to be implemented similar to your like Netflix and Amazon suggestions, where it knows what you're playing and it says recommended, you know, choices based on this. Why don't you try this game next? Like that's going to be the one that I think has a profit margin for them. So that would be the AI implementation, I would say. I also think VR might be. I know virtual reality's been like what 10 years off for like 40 years or something like that. Every you know, we were always talking about it, but I see a lot more implementations of it. Like even in arcades now, they have, you know, I did one at Dave and Buster's with the little guy, and you put on the goggles and you're Darth Vader, and you have to like I don't know, maybe you're Luke Skywalker, I don't remember, but you have to like move around with the lightsaber and dodge stuff and whatnot. And it was actually it was worthwhile, and it was fun, and it was done well. So I think AI implementations there might get some traction too.
As far as AI, I think Brooks is hitting the nail on the head as far as the implementation for the next generation of consoles. I can't really see them. I mean, I'll get about as much use out of it as I do on my phone, which is to say none, because I don't even have Apple AI installed or Apple Intelligence installed on my phone. I just don't want it. I don't really see a need for it. But, you know, the coming generation will, you know, that it's growing with it, and that is, you know, their tech lives are being informed by it almost. I think that they'll find more use out of it. And, you know, this is where I always said there would be a point where I would exit being a current gamer and become just a retro gamer. And I could see that being my exit ramp. Would be, you know, I always said it would be the death of physical media, but it may be the implementation of AI. You know, I don't know. I really have to see how they implemented it and how it impacted gameplay, how it impacted my experience, and then I'd be able to make a more informed decision. But you know, that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it's still an interesting question to ponder, you know, and I know it's kind of a, you know, look, we're talking about something that obviously AI been around for a while now, and as has gaming itself, but you know, there hasn't been any official announcements for any, you know, current systems with, you know, in terms of the Sony and Microsoft systems as far as their next, you know, console, if that happens. But I certainly think that that's the path. I mean, all phones are doing it, and it just seems like the next logical thing that's going to happen. I don't know what happens with it, but
you know what I see happening too, and it's kind of already happening. There's a little bit of an evolution there. Is like generative worlds inside games, and so you know, like you've got you put in a seed or whatever, and then it generates based on those random variables. It generates something, right? But an AI implementation inside a game, if you think about how the large language models work, they work on prompts, right? So you, depending on what you query, that will heavily dictate the output that the user receives. And so the query could be the player and how they're playing, what they're doing, where they're going. And then the AI can generate a storyline, can generate side quests, can generate all sorts of things based on that player, how that player's individual play style is. And I could see an open world game very, very easily taking AI and implementing it inside the game based on the user's discretion.
I would just say, if I was like playing Madden, be like, you know what? I want you to make every other team to suck and make me awesome. And
They have that. So like I play a big 4X. Actually, I haven't played it in a while, but a 4X game called Stellaris, which is like sci-fi game, like world building, and you take over a galaxy, and you can play human beings or aliens, or you could be a robot, whatever you want to do. But there's AI scaling inside that. So if you start like, you can turn that up, and you could say, hey, I would like AI scaling, so that if I start dominating the galaxy, then all of a sudden the AI might get smarter, might start to outsmart me, might start to build strategies based on how I played. And those things have existed for
yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know in gaming, yeah, because there's been games I played where it learns your patterns, it sees things, it recognizes things, and yeah, and it's fun too because it keeps it competitive. Because at a point, if you want to keep coming back to a game, you can't just be whipping up every time, or it gets old, or vice versa. You can't be getting creamed every time, or obviously you don't want to ever play it again. You have to have that replayability aspect, and that could certainly be a huge thing going forward. And then the creativity aspect of it too. If I just want to develop a world kind of on the fly, like you said, like side quests, whatever, like, yeah, I think that'd be awesome, an awesome implementation of it. But it just, I don't know, it's kind of funny. I just kind of wonder where it's at the machine level with it, comparative to the game level with it. And I don't know, I think it'd be something interesting to kind of see what happens. Anyone have any last minute thoughts?
Watch the Cowboys.
Kasparov lost to Deep Blue in 1997. Just saying.